So this is a really exciting big package. So this, I'm really hoping this is what I think it is. So we're going to rip it open and see. This is a pretty big one for the van. If I can get the plastic open. I'm genuinely so excited for this. It's like Christmas all over again. Ooh, yes. So this is our new solar controller and DC to DC charger with Bluetooth. So the van's getting a massive technology upgrade in line for what's to come next.
Our battery went dead.
So unfortunately, I got rudely awakened by the emergency battery disconnect.
This was going to be our park up for the night, but because of our battery issue, we're going to just stop here, let Rosie out for a walk, and then head on to our next location.
So unfortunately, the battery situation is actually getting worse.
It's either that or we might actually have to end things early and head home.
The batteries just aren't charging at all. So one of the things we've learned is unfortunately we are not getting enough juice to the batteries. We now know what we need to focus on in the next stages of the van build for off-grid living, so the priorities have shifted slightly, and we are going to continue with that over the winter. So you'll have seen in one of our last videos that we said we were getting a massive upgrade to the van. So we're getting a new battery for the van. I'll give more details on that later. So we wanted to do this in an earlier video, but unfortunately we got a wee bit delayed with the shipping. So we're going to do it now. And the massive upgrade that we're going to do with the van is lithium. We're going to put lithium power into the van, but it's still budget friendly. We have 315 amp hours of lithium power, and it only costs £350. So how do we get so much power for such little money? The answer is with Fogstar. Now the video is not sponsored by Fogstar, but I do want to give them a bit of a shout out because this is definitely amazing stuff. They do a DIY kit, so it's essentially a flat pack lithium battery. So you get a battery case with everything inside it that you need to assemble, and then you get a separate box with the lithium cells. So we're going to crack open the battery case and see what's inside of it. So the battery case is the lid and the top part, which comes apart really easily, and they're just done by 3mm Allen screws. So we'll take that apart now. So let's see what we get inside. So this is a brace and also looks like the battery balancing circuit board. We have some foam pads, which will probably be for in between the cells. Here we have a box of goodies. We'll go through that in a second. And then at the very bottom of the box, or case, we have some fiberglass sheets. Now, these have to be stuck on for around where the lithium cells are going to be stored. So let's see what we get inside the box. So we get our, what looks to be negative terminals. These are our terminal caps for the battery case itself. A lot of screws. We have the bus bars to connect the cells together, connect the cells to the battery management, and some foam pads for the top. We also have the fuse for the battery cells. And then the last thing we have in the box is the battery management system itself, and on all the connections for it. So some time has passed since we began this video, and that is because after we unboxed the battery kit we realised that we were missing some parts. We were missing some of the fiberglass sheets and some of the screws to put it together. So we ended up contacting Fogstar on this, and I have to say it's the only bit so far I've had where they've let us down a wee bit. We contacted them, didn't hear anything back, so I ended up ringing them and they said yep, we're sort of working on this. And then I didn't hear anything back for almost a week until I finally received a random email saying, yeah, is your address correct so we can send these parts. So a wee bit of a letdown on the customer service side of things, but at least they did send out the parts that we needed. Could have been a wee bit quicker, but sure, that's where we are at the moment. So we're going to put you on time lapse till I assemble the battery, and then if there's anything else that we think you really need to know, we'll mention it. Otherwise, we'll just quickly put this together so that we can do a wee bit of testing. say, like, you don't have to be particularly electronically minded to do this. I would say if you're confident around electronics, if you're doing your van build, that you should be able to follow along the video Fogstar provide and put this together. And I think this is a very, very good budget alternative, like, because the battery is very high quality, the parts seem to be very high quality. The only thing that I've noticed is it doesn't work with the Fogstar app. So you do have to do a wee bit of configuration on the battery management app. And Fogstar don't provide the password for that. So just in case you are doing this, if you scan the QR code on top of the BMS, and it'll take you to the website, and then if you just go for the instruction manual for JK BMS, it does sort of worry you a wee bit because it'll be all in sort of Chinese, I think it is. But whenever you click into the instruction manual, it's all in English as well. And just follow down till you get the password. Set it up, and then at the end of that video of Fogstar Provide, they actually give you the 2 settings that you need to change. So in the app, you can monitor everything that's going on with the battery. So you have your battery capacity, your remaining capacity, and then it gives you a percentage as well. It also lets you know the balance between the cells, and you can actually see in real time the BMS doing its job, which is taking if there's too much power in, say, cell 1 and putting it into cell 4, so all the cells are equally balanced. As well as that, it'll show you how much time you've got left, sort of the battery, and how much power you're using in amps, how many amp hours you're using whenever you're drawing power from it. So now that we have our lithium battery built, it's now time to start installing it into the van. So as you can see, we still have the old batteries in place, and what we're going to do is we're going to remove the old batteries. I've just discovered something as well. You can actually have the van plugged in and everything working without the batteries connected, because I've already disconnected them from the sort of the control systems of the van. So it was good to know. But yeah, so we're going to disconnect the original ambulance batteries, take them out, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make a sort of a plinth for the new battery to sit onto, and then start running some of the wires for the rest of the systems.
So here you can see we took some measurements and some of the leftover wood we had, and we marked it out to size. This piece of wood was going to be used as a raised platform to put the battery onto. So in this clip we're cutting along the lines that we made to make the rectangle to fit it in, then we're screwing it down to some battens. I do know that these are actually called battens, by the way. I just think that baton has a really nice ring to it. So you can see that these battens are being used to keep the battery in place, and also we're going to keep it secured with a strap to stop it moving about during transport whenever we're on the roads. So all that was left to do at the end of this process was to put the battery in place, screw it down into the floor, and make sure that it was in securely.
So what I'm doing now is, now that we have our battery in location and our DC to DC charger and solar controller, I'm now wiring up bus bars and starting to connect things together and starting to put fuses in place. So just want to try and get the wires as neat as I can. So that's probably going to go somewhere like that, and that will go into there, and then from there into the bus bar, and then from the bus bar into the battery. So that's just what I'm doing at the moment.
So what have you done?
What have you done? Join me in my dungeon of electrical equipment. Well, I pose very provocatively. So I have run the wires for the solar into the solar controller. Now they do need tied up, but they're just poked out of the way for the meantime. And then we have the output of the total controller going through a fuse into the bus bar, which sort of all our positives will be connected to this bus bar. So this one runs to the inverter and then also splits off and runs up to the front for the main van electrics. And then we need to get a cable, an extra. We'll actually have a bit of cable. Where is it? It's probably up my bum. That's sort of the cable that we're going to need. So we need a cable like this, more cable like that, to go from the battery, so fuse on the battery, then from the battery into this switch, and then from this switch into the positive, but I don't have the connections or enough cable to do that. And then I don't have enough cable, unfortunately, to go from the negative of the battery into the negative bus bar, or to go from the negative on the controller to the negative bus bar, because yeah, I don't have enough connections. So a bit stuck at the moment. So I said earlier I didn't think I had enough connections and enough cable, but whenever I went into the shed and had a hook about, I actually found cable, which is probably a bit overkill for what we need. It's a lot thicker of a cable, but that's always better than having too thin of a cable. So I had a lot thicker of a cable which we can use, and then I had the connections for it as well. So what I've done is I have the cable for the positive going into an isolator. We're just waiting on the fuse, which is apparently 6 stops away, so that's exciting. So whenever we have the fuse, we'll be able to connect up the positive for the battery. So I've ran the positive into an isolator to turn off all the van, into the bus bars. I've got my bus bars set up and wired for all positive and all negative. They also go into the DC controller and solar controller, and then that feeds back into itself again. What we're going to do now is we're going to shut the van down. We're still waiting on the fuse, but we can temporarily connect the positive and turn it on, and just to test to see if it works with the van electrics and all okay. So let's turn the lights off. We'll go out and disconnect from the main hookup. So we're going to connect our battery. So the battery's on. So let's connect to the app first and see what it looks like. So we'll connect. So we can hear a few beeps. Yep, so we're on. Good. Now if we flick it on, let's hope we don't blow up. So this is a moment of truth. Does it work? Hey, power.
This video was an intro into our electrics, but as you can see, we haven't ticked it off yet because, as Stephen says, there's still some work to do on that.
So what I have left to do electrically is I still have to plug in the alternator charger for the charge controller. So I still need to wire that in. I still need to run the fuse box for the likes of our reading lights and our fridge, which is coming up in the next video as well, and then just other bits and pieces electrically that I have to do, like I have to run just different bits and pieces for that charge controller. So make sure you stay tuned to the next video to see all that happening and all that electrical magic.
So make sure you're subscribed as we continue on next week with more of the build.